happening, everybody? Welcome to Aquashella Orlando Frag Off 2020. All right, folks, so if you guys, who's been to an Aquashella before? Have you seen this event before? All right, so we've got a few of you. This is a one-of-a-kind event, and this event has a lot to do with marine and coral aquaculture. We're going to talk a little about that today while our contestants are going through their stuff, so, but we'll get into that. So without further, the contestants are up here, and they're getting set, so I'm just going to call out the contestants who we have. So starting over on the far right, we have Dwayne Ward from Ward's Aquatic. We have Brandon from Seven Seas Aquatics in the middle. Wow. Wow. We have a fan club, all right. And then we got Ken from Blue Seas here on the end. How this is going to go down is we're going to have 3 different corals. Each coral requires its own special fragging techniques and everything else. At the end, the frags will be given away, and these are all high-end frags that were provided today. Some of our judges will talk about what the frags actually are and everything else. So without further ado, let's get the judges up here. So first up on stage from ACI is Chris Meckley. You know him, you love him. A man who could spend a lifetime explaining knowledge of coral and everything else to you, and it wouldn't be enough time. So next up on stage, who do we have? Oh, we got Jake Adams. Big round of applause. Hopefully some of you guys caught Jake's talk this morning. If not, you can catch it on YouTube or Facebook. It'll be restreamed there. And then last but not least, we have Kevin from TSA Aquatics. I just drew a blank for 1 second. Defending champion of the Aquascape contest. You'll see him here tomorrow, facing it off head-to-head with Remy from Bahama Llama Corals. They'll be going head-to-head. So I'm going to hand the mic over here to Chris. And Chris, you can why don't you give us a rundown of the first coral we're going to be starting with, and a little bit about where the corals came from and all that other good stuff.
So we brought 3 different kinds of corals. We brought an SPS. We picked the corals that we picked first because we haven't done them before other than the zoanthid side of it, but we have different criteria this time. This is an SPS. This is the Seriatopora. I think it's either Gutata. It's not Hystrix, but it's a small polyphtony coral, very branchy. It's actually a very fast-growing coral, and it's actually one of the most difficult species to actually mount after you frag them. So it's part of the reason why we picked it, to see how these guys are doing with their skills on mounting a real thin, branching coral. The zoanthids, Jake can hold them up, but you really won't be able to see much of anything with them because it's just a little tile that comes in from Indonesia when we import them as a maricultured piece. And I think these are called udder piece zoanthids. So we tried to pick something that was a little bit more exciting for people to stick around and get their frags at the end of the show if they are lucky enough to be in line long enough to get a frag. Then we brought, everybody calls them as Goku chalices. They're orange and green or orange and blue. It's one of my favorite chalice corals. It's a Cynophilia aspera in most cases, and they can be difficult to frag if you don't have the right tools and you're not looking at them properly, because the way these guys have to cut that coral, we want a single coralite. Most people call that an eye. It is actually a coralite, so if they get them done correctly with a single coralite, that's part of the ways we're judging them. So tried to pick something a little bit different, something that's exciting for everybody that's here watching to get a free frag at the end. And if these guys do a really good job, you'll have a frag that'll be able to grow out and enjoy for many years down the road if you take care of your tanks properly. That's the key. So this is going to be really fun for, I think, everybody. I've enjoyed it every time we've done it, and let's get it going.
Love it. Big round of applause for Chris, everybody. Yeah, this is an event I could totally think you guys could like turn into like a pro like tour or whatever, and like go around city to city, and like this could pick up speed. All right, anybody else want to say anything before we start, or you guys want to like get these guys? Here we go, Jake.
When Sean Hale first reached out to me and told me about his frag off, I didn't really know how it would turn out. And it's going to take a little bit of time, but it is such a fun thing that is really unique to the reef aquarium hobby and the reef aquarium experience. It's really insightful to see the different approaches to the different fraggers, because everybody's got their specialty, right? There's not a single person who's the best at fragging everything. You know, some people frag a lot of zoanthids, some a lot of chalice, some a lot of LPS, some a lot of SPS. And even as judges, we don't know everything, right? We're just kind of pooling our knowledge and our opinion on, you know, a collective best score. But even us, we get some insight in watching and seeing how these guys do it. And it's just turned out to be a really, really fun aspect of Aquashella. And like Jeremy said, like this is gonna pick up steam, and I think it's gonna be have more iterations in the future. It's a really fun event.
Competitors, any questions? Basically, we'll go down the line. I'll tell you who picks first. You go pick your coral, come back. We say go, you get 10 minutes. It's not a race for quantity or anything else. It's quality frags is what we want. If you got a lot of them and they're all quality, great, but it's not a race. Use your time wisely and do it. Produce frags that you would sell at your own stores. How's that? There you go. All right. If you wouldn't sell it, don't present it to the judges.
If you wouldn't frag it and sell it that day, I mean, although I wouldn't do that, I mean, within a couple of days after they heal and you know you're not going to get recession, just make sure you're very, detailed with what you're doing to make sure that it's going to live long term. I mean, you guys have been doing it a long time. It's going to be exciting to see these three go at it.
Yeah, a lot of talent up here on stage. Did we decide what we're starting with? All right, we're going to start off with the zoanthids. Ken, being Dwayne has already been here, we'll go first time being your closest to me. Please pick the Zoa frag of your choice. All right, Brandon, please choose your frag. All right, Dwayne, choose wisely. You got your choice. All right, folks. So here we go. All our competitors. Everybody has their Everybody has their colony, rather. Let's get the official Apple timer ready. And in 3, 2, 1, frag off. All right, guys. Here we go. We're jumping right in. So, how many people here are saltwater people? A lot of you guys. How many people of the saltwater people have actually fragged stuff before? A few of you. All right. So. Anybody here own their own saw? One kind of half hand there. You own half a saw, sir? Just a half. Just the bottom. You're saving up for the top half. Okay, all right, good. Well, what we have up here, for those of you who don't know, I'm going to talk a little bit about what we have. These are called diamond blade saws. They're wet saws. We have 2 different varieties here. We have the Griffins, and then the Precision, I think, is the middle saw. This has a reservoir in here that contains water, as well as sitting in a wet bath. That provides water on the blade, kind of like a tile saw. So as you're cutting the rock and the stone, you're reducing the heat, which is going to prevent any kind of regression of the tissue or burning the coral or anything of that nature. This setup's a little bit different, where you have a water container that's feeding it, as where these pick up from the bottom. You can see, Ken's got a really interesting setup. Ken, I noticed you're using an AI Prime up here. Is that so you can really kind of see the polyp detail?
I am old, yes.
So it's an eye thing?
Yes.
Are those glasses safety magnifiers?
They are not. They are just safety.
Should they be magnifiers?
Yes.
Okay, fair enough. 100%. All right. If Ken loses a finger, you now know why. All right, so we got Brandon here in the middle. Brandon's looking closely. He's really concentrated, but Brandon, you got a heavy stream of water in your saw. How do you kind of discern what you're looking at here? Is it just a lot of practice, or can you really see through that water?
A lot of practice, a lot of focus, and just making sure that you don't hit the zoas.
So one thing to note as these guys are rushing through here is these blades really can't cut you, so you'll see them. If you bump them, I can put my finger on them. It'll leave a little mark, but they're not going to cut you, so you're not up here being super careful like you're dealing with a bandsaw or something else, which is a little different than you would think, seeing that they're cutting through the stone and everything else, but it's the grit on the blade, and that's why they're wet saws. So I'm going to, Chris, you're closest to me. Or actually, we haven't heard from Kevin yet, so Kevin, why don't you tell us your initial opinions?
It's interesting to see the different techniques some of the guys are using. I mean, we have some with the saw, some who prefer the bone clipper. You know, with these types of corals, both can work. You just really got to be careful not to shred or bruise the polyps if you want those things to recover well and really heal up and be sales ready right away. So the guys look like they're doing a good job across the board, so keep it going.
There you go. Chris, what do you think?
Well, I was just looking at what we have. We have two different saws being used here. The Griffin's really common in the industry, but my personal favorite is the one that Brandon's using. It is by far my favorite saw. It has a faster RPM, cuts through the corals better in my opinion, but the XL Griffins have been proven and they're designed more for this type of application. That one that he's using is not designed for fragging. So no, I mean none of them are. They're not meant to handle the salt water. The salt water doesn't, it loves to just eat up everything in these saws. And personally, that's my favorite, but I do know that everybody likes these particular Griffins as well. I've never actually used them myself. But I think what we're seeing here, and after talking to them a little bit before, then I gave them basically a little bit of a criteria, especially with the zoanthid. I didn't want them to have these big, chunky 20 polyp pieces. I wanted to make sure we spread this out so as many people that are in the audience here can get, you only need 1 polyp of a zoanthid. If you have 1 polyp and you can keep a reef tank, you can grow a zoanthid out. So these guys know what the criteria is, and it looks like they're doing a really good job with that right now.
Awesome. Jake?
One of the things that we like to look out for, especially in the first round, is just kind of the overall setup. So Chris talked about the different kind of saws, but one of the things we really like to see, especially with dealing with zoanthids, is personal protective safety, right? So one gentleman is wearing glasses, another one's wearing glasses and a mask. The supplementary light really, if you cut a lot of frags, having that extra light is gonna help you see what you're doing. And just in the first round, we really get a feel for people's techniques. And one thing I've been waiting to see for like 3 or 4 competitions now is for someone to preload their coral discs with glue, right? So if I'm gonna do a bunch of frags, I put a bunch of glue down first and let that like start to cure a little bit. And here on the end, this contestant, he did that. He preloaded some of his disc with some glue, and now he's going through and putting his coral frags on there. So in the first round, we're really looking at their technique and kind of their approach. And like I said, it's just really informative to see the different styles for fragging, especially under the crunch and pressure that these guys have currently in this first round.
Does anybody here, so we've had some favorites. I mean, this isn't like a scape off. You guys can't see it. Well, you actually can. You're getting a good camera view here. But is anybody like pulling for anybody specific at this point? Anybody have any favorites? Brandon, man. Brandon clearly brought his fan club. Everybody, the judges, you guys have so much knowledge on this stage right now. It's unbelievable. I mean, these are some of the biggest names in this industry between aquaculture, mariculture, stores, frags. If you were to put a dollar amount on the knowledge here to hold like a master class, this would be like a $10,000 class to get to spend like an hour with you guys. So
No dollar amount.
that's true. It's priceless.
It's free.
Priceless. Priceless experience here. It costs you $30 to get in. You're getting a $100 show. 3 minutes, 15 seconds, folks. 3 minutes, 15 seconds. So this young lady right here gets dragged to these shows. However, this is commitment right here. You have fully committed. Don't fall over, please, ma'am. Mermaid leggings, but is not an aquatic person. So congrats. Big round of applause for full commitment. Full commitment. There you go. 2 minutes, 20 seconds, gentlemen. 2 minutes and 20 seconds. A lot of stuff going on. A lot of different techniques happening here. We got frags being glued down. Got nothing from Ken yet. Brandon's gluing stuff down. Dwayne's gluing things down. A lot of different techniques happening here. Really interesting to see. Who's looking forward to a free frag at the end of this? Well, that's good. We'll probably have plenty for everybody then. You get some high-end stuff here for sure. Jacob, these 3 colonies that we're dealing with, what's your favorite today?
You know, I think zoanthus are kind of straightforward to separate the polyps. So in this category, there's definitely like a lot of nuance involved. The colony on the end, Wards Aquatics, didn't have nearly as many polyps to start with, so we're going to take that into account as far as the overall number of frags that come out of it. But we'll look at just consistency across the zoanthid category. The bird's nest is a tough one because there's just so little surface area to actually glue down. You're talking, just a little bit more than like the tip of a pencil to glue down. So that's going to be an interesting challenge for these guys to figure out how to get those frag. But when it comes to like style, definitely the chalice will be an interesting one to make sure these guys don't just checkerboard the chalice corals into a bunch of little squares, because nobody wants a square piece of chalice coral. So that's the one that we'll definitely be looking for some more style points. Kind of like big air, not competition. But we're seeing these guys, rush up to finish up in this category. How much time do we have? 33 seconds, you guys. All right, so it's almost time to wrap it up.
Down to the final frags to be glued. Everybody make your final preparations here. Steady hands, glue and dip. Safety being considered. I believe Jake talked about it, but we see people up here with glasses, face masks. Zoanthids do contain a paleotoxin. Depending on the strain, which is often hard to tell, can depend on how much paleotoxins are in there. But regardless of how much or how little, you should always take caution using these guys. So we're coming down to it. That's it, folks. Hands up time. Glue your last plug. All right, folks, what we're going to do now is we're going to get these frags into a tray over to the judges' table. Judges are going to review them, make their scores, and then we will pick our next colony, and we'll be prepared to go. So, all right, so something that we're doing here is you're noticing we're swapping out the water because of those zoanthids and the paleotoxins, too. You want to start over with some fresh, clean water. So we're going to fill up a bin here so the frags can go in it. All right, so we got judging going on. We got fresh water going in. You guys got enough plugs still and everything? All right, gentlemen, how are we doing with judging?
So I know you guys can't see this as closely as we can, but we're definitely looking at the homogeneity of the polyps. When you go into a store, you don't want to see a rack of frags that has a bunch of 1 polyp pieces and a bunch of 5 polyp pieces. That's not really great for the vendor or the consumer. We're also looking at the quantity of glue that's used. We don't want a bunch of over glue on the frag plug. That might be some place that algae can actually take hold a little bit quicker than the rest of the frag base. And if you go to clean that over glue, you might knock the frag off from the base. So yeah, we're looking at some different criteria here. I mean, no doubt these are all going to be decent frags, but when you see these different entries side by side, definitely some qualities about them start to stand out.
I think we got what we were looking for out of it for the most part. It is a competition, and it is something that's timed, so it's not always going to be as neat as I would think it should be, but it is interesting to see the different techniques and the fact that they were able to make the amount of frags that they were able to make in a 10-minute period of time. Time is always of the essence when we're at the farm, and production of coral frags is something that is very important, but it has to be done correctly. What we've seen here is, a good representation of what these guys are capable of doing at their farm. And if they're slowed down a little bit, I can see that they would all be extremely talented at making sure that the frags are what they're looking for them to sell.
Well, you guys ready for the next round? Which coral we got going now? All right, it's time for the bird's nest. This one should be fun.
All right, folks, so we're going to go with the bird's nest coral for round 2. Dwayne is up to pick first. All right, Brandon. I would think so, yeah. Yeah, I think you just drop them all in the container, so. No, Ken, hold them all in your hands. All right, everybody got their frags? Everybody assess what they have? Everybody good? Racks are coming back. All right, everybody got their frag racks back? Everybody ready? All right, here we go. And in 3, 2, 1, frag it. Something. So, all right, here we go. We got to kick it off again. So, very different technique. You're probably not going to see, I would imagine, no saws on this. It's going to be mostly clippers. So, we got the judges coming out here. Ken's clipping. Brandon's using the clippers. Jake, if this was out in the lab with you, what would you be doing for these?
Pretty much exactly what these guys are doing as well. Like, I like to, for any of the branchy, stony corals, I like to frag them first with the clippers. You know, you get a good, real manual feel on it. You can't always cut everything with the bandsaw, but I would do what these guys basically are doing is just trimming first, and then, you know, doing what you need to do to clean off the bases to make sure you get a good bond. So this is a very easy coral to frag, but a much more challenging coral to glue down. So it'll be really interesting to see how many of these guys' frags are still, you know, well secured to the frag base once their time is up. What do you think, Kevin?
Well, one of the techniques I like to use with bone clippers on these is not necessarily just squeezing it. A lot of times you can fracture the coral and have it break up into a lot of different pieces. So I tend to kind of give it a slight twisting motion to get a little cleaner break. Another thing with the bird's nest is the gluing can be very difficult. A lot of them will slime and the water can drip into the glue, so they can come loose and they don't really have a good bond. And a lot of times you'll find them just falling straight off the plug. So it'll be important to see what technique these guys use to really anchor them down to keep these things solid.
Kevin, are there any, so I noticed looking up here, and you guys probably can't notice, these particular plugs, they kind of have a tiny divot in the middle. There are some with a much more exaggerated, and now there's even some like 3D printed ones that have like kind of prongs that come in the middle. When you guys are doing, you know, like stony corals and sticks and stuff, does that make it easier to try to mount when you have more of a base?
It's a good question, because we had changed our frag plug supplier recently, and my guys don't like the big plugs with the divots in them. I like them for the smaller plugs for like bird's nests, you know, Styloforas, Acroporas, all of that. It just makes it a little bit easier for you to get that frag to actually stand up. Seeing that they're on these plugs here is going to make it a little bit easier for them. So these were the perfect plugs. Whoever had to put them into this, it's going to make it a little easier on them. I was trying to make this harder, but that made it easier. But what I liked about going around and watching every one of these guys cutting these corals up is, you know, they don't just look at the coral and just start chopping it into pieces. They actually look at the coral, study the coral, twist the coral, move it around, and try to find the best possible place to cut the coral so you get the best looking fragment that you're going to make off of that small colony. And all three of these guys did that, and it was just watching them twist it and spin it, clip it, twist it and spin it and clip it. It's good to see that they are being very mindful as to how they're cutting the corals, because it says a lot, especially at a retail level when they're selling them at their shops. It gives them the ability to have a little bit less time for, say, healing, and the fragment is sellable. So that was pretty cool, and it's kind of what I was looking for.
So one technique that you can't see from back here behind the scenes, you know, the classic way to glue down SPSs is just to use a little bit of super glue and or some super glue accelerator. But behind the scenes here, we have two of our contestants. They're doing the super glue epoxy super glue sandwich. So I don't know how many of you guys are familiar with that. But basically, they're laying down a little bit of super glue, making a little ball of epoxy, and then putting super glue on top of that. So that way, when you press this very thin branched SPS coral into the epoxy, it's going to hold a lot better. Definitely the contestants that are using this approach are going to have some sort of an advantage. And the cameraman here is going to be showing you the super glue epoxy sandwich. You see how they're doing right there? It's not super in focus, but there's just so little surface area on the the bottom of this 1/8 inch thick branch that this is a really awesome technique to get a really nice, secure adhesion between the coral and the coral frag base. You know, you can do just a super glue if you're doing a couple frags, but you know, a very active tang or a big turbo is really going to be easy to knock that aside. So we're very curious to see how these are going to turn out.
All right, let's see what we got left for time. We got 4.5 minutes, gentlemen. 4.5 minutes. So we can see looking in here, Ken's working, steady hand. He's doing the mountain dip. coming over. Everybody talked about these little divots in the. Oh, we got tweezers going on. Brandon's using tweezers. That's smart.
You know, there's something here that I'm seeing with two of the contestants up here with the way that they're mounting the bird's nest frags, and it is something I think is very important for people to, you know, because of the thin branch of the bird's nest, there's not enough flat surface area to stick it onto the plug for the height of the fragment. So some people use putty, and it's a marine epoxy that you can get that is two-part. You blend it together, you put a little ball of it on your frag plug, or you put a dab of glue, the ball of putty, and then you push down the bird's nest frag inside the putty, and that holds it into place. I don't particularly use that at our coral farm. The only time we use it, Levi's sitting down here in the audience, and I bought him a whole bunch of putty because he is the NPS guy. He loves the NPS corals, and we started fragmenting gorgonians, and we showed him how to make these little balls with a divot down inside of them so that he can then glue that to the plug. But seeing that people brought it here for the frag off was not something I was expecting, and it's pretty cool to see. So there's a lot of different ways to do things, and it's nice to see the different techniques again.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Chris, let me ask you about, so for people that aren't familiar with this, we see them, yeah, I mean, they're being delicate, they know what they're doing, but they're also manhandling. Do the polyps on stony corals like this retract enough that you shouldn't have to worry too much when you're touching them or gluing them, or for anybody that wants to try, should they be more cautious about how they're grabbing?
You know, SPS corals are the least delicate of all the corals that are fragmented. A lot of reasons for it. You know, the polyps do retract, and you can pretty much manhandle them, and as long as you're not like scraping them and rubbing them against sandpaper or whatnot, you know, what you do to the coral is more than likely not going to affect it. When it comes down to other corals like LPSs, you got to be more delicate with when you're cutting them. The tissue blows up and inflates more and gets more water into the tissue. So it's an easy coral to fragment, but it's not an easy coral to mount. And that's why it was chosen here. And also it was chosen because if we do acroporas again, I got to worry myself about, is the hobbyist that getting that frag at the frag off going to be able to keep that acropora alive? We have to pick SPS corals that are very easy for even a beginner hobbyist to start with, because Seriatopora hystrix or gutata are very simple corals when it comes to the SPS world to keep, as long as you are maintaining water parameters. Just like most corals, but acroporas, they just make it even more difficult. But it's really, really cool to see how the different techniques are working out here. That's one of the things I love about doing this.
Do you have, so we talked a little bit about the two techniques, you got the glue or you got the putty dip. Put your consumer hat on. Like when you see a coral in a frag rack, is it more impressive to you to see something with a kind of a clean plug and just a little bit of glue that will crest over quickly? Or do you think the putty is colored enough that it doesn't take away, just kind of looks like a rocket stuck into?
For me personally, you know, that's kind of hard because I don't really think I've ever bought many frags. We were doing all the fragging, but I've seen, yeah, more than you know. When I do get frags at shows like this, you know, normally I'm looking at the coral and I'm looking at the health of the animal itself. What the plug looks like to me is not necessarily a deterrent. If it looks like it's bone white, I'm not going to necessarily say I'm not going to buy that fragment. But in some cases, depending on what the coral is, I wouldn't purchase it because it's too fresh for me. But with the putty on it, that doesn't bother me at all because that just...
Hang on. 5 seconds, folks. Sorry, 5 seconds. Talking over it. 3, 2, 1. Hands up. Get the last one. Sorry, Chris.
The putty doesn't bother me because that makes me understand that they really want to make sure that that fragment's going to stay put and it's not going to fall over, fall off. When it comes down to this particular species, it is probably, even to this day for me, one of the most difficult for me to not get frustrated with when I'm mounting all the fragments that we make, even though we do have really good techniques for it. But the frag plugs with all the putty on it doesn't bother me, as long as the coral looks healthy.
Okay. All right, fair enough. All right, so let's check in. Ken, how are you feeling after 2 rounds?
Tired.
You haven't really broke a sweat. I'm impressed.
Trying not to.
A lot of training went into this prior?
35 years worth.
35 years, all for this moment. Is this kind of, is it fair to say this is the pinnacle of your career?
As of today, yes.
As of today, absolutely.
Rings, but today, yeah.
All right, today, that's it. Brandon, how you feeling?
Confident.
Confident, all right. Well, I would too if I had the fan club here that you do. So what would you, is it the hair? It's the hair, isn't it? The four, okay. How you feeling about the 2 corals that you've touched so far?
Delicate cuts, looks good. Got a lot of yield out of each piece, so I think I'm good.
Stuff you're comfortable with?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Dwayne, how you feeling after 2 rounds?
Feeling good, man.
You got a lot to live up to. You've been up on the stage multiple times in the past. One of the judges is your scape off nemesis.
All right.
I mean, You feel you're going to get a fair shake with Kevin as one of the judges?
Yeah, Kevin's always fair.
Okay, all right, fair enough, fair enough. How's the equipment holding up? Anybody have any saw issues? Everything good with the?
Yeah, all good with the equipment. Just keeping a steady hand and getting everything safely mounted and done the right way.
How do you feel about the last round coming up? Any concerns?
Oh, I'm excited about the last.
All right, Ken, how you feeling about the last round?
Chalice is that's my go-to.
Oh boy, this is you just been holding back. Oh,
It's my go-to.
Hey, hang on, everybody forget what was just said. Hey, Ken, how you feeling about the last round?
Really good. Chalice is my Goku.
Dun dun. He's here all weekend, folks. He's here all weekend. Try the Goku. And for those of you who are perplexed by what we're talking about, the last coral is a Goku chalice, so that's why that joke was funny, even though many of you didn't laugh. All right, folks, we're getting prepped up here, so... All right, judges are working here diligently. Alcohol is involved to get through this process. Judges, are we ready? You guys feeling good? Contestants, have you finished cleaning up the rest of those birds' nests? We good to go? All right, while you're doing so, Brandon, you get first choice this time, so if you want to pick out your colony while we get your racks ready for you. Those are the three that are left. These are Goku chalices. You know, it's something funny if you're not familiar with this world. They look very green or brown or unoppressive, but if you move these over underneath the blue light and looked at them, they're bright oranges and all kinds of crazy colors. So, can you actually hold that under the light so they can see the contrasting difference? Look at the color difference between under the light and then pull it out to just take it out of the light and watch how the color changes. It just looks brown, green, whatever. You wouldn't even know it has anything. So that's kind of the big thing with corals is, you know, but the blue lights really make them pop. So for those of you that aren't familiar with this industry and whatnot, so there you go. We got everybody got their frag racks back. Jake, we all mounted over there. You guys ready? Kevin, you done with your final notes? All right, gentlemen, here we go. In 3, 2, 1, frag it. All right, we're gonna pay attention to time this time. We got crap in the air here. Saws are going, saws are blazing. So, Chris, I talked a little bit about coral aquaculture, mariculture. Why don't you talk a little bit about coral aquaculture while the guys start cutting stuff up, and then Jake will have you talk about mariculture.
Coral aquaculture, what is it? Does anybody know what it is? Is there a definition for coral aquaculture? I don't really think that there is any standards to call something an aquacultured coral. We've been struggling with that for a long time as ACI Aquaculture, and there's a lot of gray area in the whole thing. There's nothing black and white about it. So what is it? Well, ACI has come up with our definition of what coral aquaculture is, and I honestly believe that if you're not sexually spawning an animal to actually get genetic diversity, and we're doing the asexual form of farming a coral, because at this point in time, there's not really enough data, and it's not really cost effective enough for you to actually sexually spawn the corals so you can actually grow them from, you know, the spawn to the larva to a colony. So we identify it as what we're doing as in frag generations. So we get a wild colony of coral in, and we then keep that coral, make sure it's healthy, and we start to then make fragments of that coral. Well, once that coral's been fragmented, we mount it onto a frag plug, we grow it out. Once it grows out and grows too big for the frag plug, then we take that frag plug and we then cut it up into however many pieces we can cut it up into that are going to be survivable from the cut, and create more small fragments of it. And as you keep doing this over and over and over again from the original, say, 4 or 5 fragments that you made from the colony, that's what we consider aquaculture at this time. What really should be considered aquaculture is sexually spawning. But again, it's not something that is available in that's cost effective or really doable on the majority of the species. So if you want a truly aquacultured coral from what is available to us and what we're capable of nowadays, you need to find somebody that's reputable in growing the corals, then fragmenting the corals, and then growing those fragments, and then repeating that process until you get large numbers of them available, and you can never trace that original skeleton on any of the fragments that you are able to purchase. So aquaculture's still got a lot of gray area in it at this point in time, but it's something that's a start, and we need to get more people together on it so that we can actually define it and make it some stuff set it in concrete, set it in stone.
All right, so this round right here is probably one of the most nuanced. If you've ever seen like an orange chalice, a neon orange fluorescent chalice, our contestant here with the light, he has no problem seeing the tissue, seeing the core light, seeing what he's doing, and he's definitely getting a lot of extra advantage. These guys over here, you know, under this daylight, they're struggling to tell apart the tissue from the rock. So this is one of those categories where having a good blue light, or even any kind of light, really is a big advantage. So mariculture, this is actually probably one of the best hybrid approaches to aquaculture. It's nice to have corals that are fully grown in aquariums and used to aquarium conditions, and you can compare notes and share notes. But the one thing about mariculture, one, it can be more cost effective to farm in the ocean, but this method of farming corals in the ocean doesn't disenfranchise the people who live on those coastal communities, right? So when you farm corals here locally, you're not adding any value to the reefs and where people live. So mariculture, there's certain species, you know, Lobophilia, we don't really have the room and the space to grow a ton of Lobophilia colonies. So it really depends on the coral. So mariculture, together with aquaculture, like these guys are doing right now, we know, it's just like climate change. There is not a silver bullet. We're going to need a lot of different techniques to promote sustainability in the reef aquarium hobby. So we're taking a look at our contestants, and how much time do we have left? 5 minutes. 5 minutes, guys. This round, I think, is going to count for a little bit more than the others. You know, separating zoanthids, that's pretty straightforward. Same thing with, fragging the bird's nest. We're really looking at the attachment point. But here, these guys are really going to have the room to pull ahead of their competitors in terms of style and the quality of the frag. So there's a lot more nuance involved with how we score these guys, and it's really going to all come down to this.
All right, get down to 4.5 minutes, gentlemen. 4.5 minutes. Everybody still having a good time? All right, that's good energy. All right, coming down to the wire here, we got pieces going on racks. You know, so one thing that maybe, I don't know, you can see when the camera going around, a lot of mucus in the thing, in the tanks here. So these corals give off a lot of mucus. You can see it all floating around in there. So that's something, especially when you get corals like this home, always give them a good rinse. It's always good to dip your corals. You can see there's a bottle of Revive up here. You always want to make sure that you're checking for pests and everything too, but that kind of helps rinse them off a little bit. Get them in your tank. If for some reason you put them right in, you see them mucusing up, always run carbon. Carbon will help neutralize that. There can be some irritants in that mucus that will bother some other stuff, so running carbon will help neutralize that for sure. Oh, we got some smoke coming out. Do we have a saw on fire? Oh, that's no good. Do not get electrocuted, please. All right. That's the first time that's ever happened here. I guess the precision isn't all that it's cracked up to be. I don't see any griffins on fire, so did you not get enough cutting done to... Oh, yeah, you're good. Yeah. All right, we're getting down. Let's take a time check here. 2.5 minutes. 2.5 minutes. Who's coming back tomorrow? So, Remy, what coral up here would you like if you were to take a free coral home?
I don't know. I'd probably do the bird's nest. I feel like those are like a good beginner SPS, and they grow pretty fast, which is fun because you feel like you're successful in the SPS world once you have a bird's nest. But yeah, I'd probably take that.
All right, thanks. That wasn't very helpful, but it was insightful, so thanks, buddy. Appreciate it. We're down to our last minute. Last 50 seconds, gentlemen. 50 seconds. Look at the swagger on Ken. He's just standing up here mocking everybody else. How'd this round go for you? How'd you feel?
My work will speak for itself.
Wow. Would you like me to hand this mic to you so you could just drop it? All right, Brandon's racking things up here. Finished. Had saw malfunction, but it's not going to stop him. Brandon, how you feeling?
Real good.
All right. Man of few words, but big on forehead? Oh, all right. Your words, not mine. Dwayne, how you feeling?
Feeling good, man.
Another man of few words. These guys are all business. This is down to business. All right, let me go over, check the phone. We must be coming down to the final seconds here. Let me sneak by. All right, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Done. That's it. Frag off Orlando 2022 in the books. Big round of applause for all three gentlemen up here. Dwayne, Brandon, Ken. Big round for our judges. Jake, sorry, I'm choking and dying up here. But, all right, so we got some blue light. They're taking a look at it. Judges are going to take some time to deliberate. We got frags being bagged up as we speak. This is where things get intense. This is where the pavement hits the road. I think that's a saying. I'm not sure. It sounds like a saying. And if it's not, all right, I'm going to listen in to see if I can pick up any. Oh, he thinks they look good for the most part. All right, we're dipping in more. We're doing a little shaking around, getting a little of that slime off. Chalice slime. Should bottle that. That should be the name of a beer. Oh my God, yeah. Chalice slime. That would be a good beer name. All right, still a lot of very hush hush from the judges. All right, gentlemen, how's it going? Everybody getting cleaned up, broken down? Everybody feeling good? Judges, how are the judges doing? Working diligently, good? All right, getting closer. We're getting closer to the end here.
That's my dad up there judging. Good luck, Dad!
Well, all right. Chris has got his own. I didn't realize that, so all right. All right, judges, how we doing? We got close? 1 minute. All right. Getting there, stuff's cleaning up, saw's going down. Brandon, did your saw die, or was that just a common thing with this saw? You think it was the cord? All right, cord failure. No, the precision wasn't it. It was the cord. Subpar cords. Always want to get the best. I'm not going to say that, but people might have heard you say that. Make sure you get the highest quality cords possible. That's a lesson to be learned here. You guys ready? All right, I think we have a decision. Who's good? Jake, you want to call it? Chris, who's calling it?
Yeah, last time we did this, Chris just said the name with no build-up, no hype, no fanfare. I just want everybody to know that this is not easy. You know, these guys frag all the time, but they're up here under pressure. They got 15 minutes. I did not see anybody's hands that wasn't shaking like a cannibal. There is a little bit of a chance involved with the colonies that you receive. And, you know, these guys all have probably a specific set of experience with certain corals. So when we hit them with, you know, such diverse corals as zoanthids, SPS, and LPS chalice corals, you know, for sure one of those corals was outside of their wheelhouse for this competition. But if we'll have the contestants come up, okay, let's get in front of the table. Let's get in front of the table. All right. Sure. This is not the winner. Let's hear it for Brandon. Let's hear it for Ken. And let's hear it for Dwayne. I want you guys to know that we deliberate quite a bit on a lot of different considerations for the frags. Certain rounds were neck and neck. One judge actually tied some of the competitors as the winner of that round. But we all agreed that in this case, the 2022 Frag Off Master, Age Over Beauty.
Keep it going. I don't know if you can scream that. I'm not. Ken, any words?
Shocked. Up against these guys, it's an honor. Like me, man, we've been doing this a long time. We know each other. We talk trash, but at the end of the day, we're all the same.
End of the day, it's still a community.
Still the same.
That's awesome. And one more round of applause for everybody up here.